I was a screenwriter, and I had something of a track record in the family space doing kids entertainment. So there was a startup up here that had a connection to a personal connection, and they wanted writers who worked in that space. And the idea was, since they came from Pixar, they had this tradition of hiring talent and then teaching them the tech side, which they had done with animators. They'd hired traditional animators and taught them computer animation. So they did the same thing with their writing talent. So I came up on a 3-month contract. It worked out, and I joined the company full-time, started designing conversations for kids, creative directing some of these apps, voice directing, voice acting, startup entertainment. You just wind up doing all the things. And I worked there for almost 5 years. I spent a little time contracting at another company. That was Toy Talk / Pullstring. Then I was at Xandra. Then Intuit came calling. So I went full tilt into conversation design and, the real discipline side of it and building conversation capabilities in the company. It's an interesting thing. The industry itself gets a little compartmentalized, where it's a very developer-driven. It's an interactive art form, but it's heavily developer-driven. And content winds up sort of being in a box-filling space, where we're responsible for sort of the last inch. But I had this interesting experience at my previous company where we were really put in charge of the conversation logic, the conversation state, all the things, essentially. So one of the challenges I sort of run into is that, the tool space isn't as good as it could be. So I'm really looking for ways to empower design to sort of go chase the long tail, really dig deep into building sophisticated experiences, and working with developers to sort of get everybody going on just really nailing the conversation. And it's a new way of thinking about it, because the idea of an interdisciplinary conversation designer is still a little bit odd. Some companies are into that. Other companies are still learning. We're just trying to build those capabilities out. Conversation design is an extremely interdisciplinary field. There's a developer side to it. There's a lot of project management in it because scope becomes a problem. There's content design. There's psychology. There are all these things. So I would do everything you can to sort of at least have a working understanding of every part of it. If you're a designer, you should know. I don't know about coding. I'm not a developer myself, but you should know enough about their side of things. It all comes back to empathy. Have empathy for the developer side of it. If you're a developer, have empathy for the design side of it. And then I would just take the advice I learned from the improv world and all that is, it's much more about listening than it is about talking. All the content you do on Earth means nothing if you don't understand people. You're not giving them the answer that actually is relevant to what they said. So as much as you want to get in there and start sending stuff out, think more and more about what's coming in. I remember what kind of moment it was. This is a little sensitive, but I was at a company where we were operating under COPPA, and we were using customer transcripts to make our experiences better. So I was listening to things, and I don't know who the kids were, and it's all totally anonymous and all that. But I would hear kids start to have these moments where the conversational experience really sparked something in them, their creativity, or they would start to open up about things that upset them. And when I heard that the content sort of awaken that part of someone, I thought, well, this has the potential to be absolute magic, because I can't think of, there are a lot of forms of art that create emotional responses, but to get someone to actually process it and express it in an interactive art form, I thought, well, this is new and this can be great. And I got absolutely. And then there was also just, I would build sort of complex, interesting conversation sort of designs, and when they worked and they came off really natural because of all the crazy things I did, that was like what I sort of refer to as a Dr. Frankenstein moment, right? It's alive. And between hearing what people would say and hearing how it would affect them, and then being able to make those really natural things, that got me hooked. And now